Hello everyone and welcome to the LSI F1.5 EU Championship. We're today for the Australian Grand Prix. We're on board with your pole sitter and the championship leader, even with the man in P2. That is Ed Veer, second place at the moment, second place in the championship, but 40 points alike with the Alpine of Frantic. And that goes the same for the teams, both drivers on their own in their teams, meaning it is 40 points in there as well. Terence in P3 having a bit of a disappointing result in the end of the Singapore Grand Prix after making contact whilst racing with Dr. Livesey. And now we see Livesey, Verf, Sheriko, Willis, Solkin, all higher tier drivers, but welcome to the league. Book PP, they are now driving for Williams and on debut here, looking to see what they can do. The second driver on the grid today that is in the continent of Asia. Terence is the other driver, as we've just talked about. They're currently on an outlap ready to go once more. Then we'll see Book PP go across the line as well. It is going to be the battle of the internet, and so far I think everybody is looking pretty smooth on the connection side, as smooth as it's going to get. And we see it's very slightly visually complicated, but other than that it should be absolutely fine. Frantic looking to try and extend their championship lead after missing the last round in Singapore for 5 minutes of qualifying left to try and get themselves ready for the race. What can Ed Veer do today to try and get the championship lead themselves and prevent Frantic from winning their first race? As we see Terence dance the car through and into the wall, unfortunately on the exit of the corner, and that is not going to help them at all. They get themselves facing the correct way around. It's Book PP who goes ahead of Verf, who is on an outlap looking to just travel around the circuit for a little bit, but that's no battery. That is Book PP giving up on this lap immediately before they've even started it. So Verf is going to be the next one to do a lap, and they're currently just warming up their tyres to do an invalid lap, a fake lap effectively, as they will look to start at the back of the pack whilst being a higher tier driver. It was just a recap of the championship so far. Frantic, Solkin and Ed Veer all taking the podium in Zandvoort. Then it went to Frantic, Terence and Gergo Pados. Then we saw in Singapore Solkin take their first ever LSI F1 victory, F1.5 EU victory, followed by Livesey and Ed Veer. And now Livesey and Solkin are both higher tier drivers, so everything has changed around, taking their first victory in LSI, now promoted, and they took a lovely podium yesterday here, so they know that they're strong. Verf was very strong as well, as they take the podium, and they are now the championship leader, continuing to hold their championship lead here in LSI F1, as they do go ahead of the Williams eventually, who doesn't get going on this lap. Terence in the pit lane once more. That's an invalidation, as Verf is looking for. They'll continue to try and complete this lap in the fastest possible time they can, just to prove it. They cut that curve really aggressively on the inside into the final sector though. Just the car on rails as they get the downforce on the wings. Just balancing it through the following corners, and then on the throttle, bleeding through, DRS open. And what's it going to be for the green car? It's going to be a 16.169, so they wouldn't have quite got there in the end, but we don't know what their precautions were on that lap to try and stay out of trouble. It's Frantic currently on a lap of 16.113 is their time as they go through the first sector. Purple for them. Edvir on an out lap, getting ready to start their final lap of the qualifying session. This is Frantic's submission to do that. The two Dutchmen at the front of the field right now. DRS open once more before the start-finish straight, that is. But PP out of qualifying, they finish in P4, their last of the runners. So it will be P4, nothing will change there. But it's between Edvir, Terence and Frantic, as Frantic has a bit of a lock-up, goes slightly straight into the corner. DRS, ERS available. What's it going to be for Frantic as they have a long run up to the line? A brilliant exit's going to help them with that one. And it's an almost 2.5 tenth improvement of 15.882. And then we will see Terence go across the line to start their next lap. And then Edvir will challenge his fellow countryman to give it a shot for that pole time. It's Terence through the first sector, going all the way to the right-hand side on the exit. And then switching over to the left, avoiding as much as you can the bottoming out in the middle of the circuit, but a big bit of oversteer is not going to help with that one. And it's Edvir now going to the following corner, but they've just locked up and gone a little bit too deep on the exit. You can see that car's on a bit of a knife edge. 7th gear, keeping it in 7th, down to 6th to use the engine braking. And they put the battery on. The DRS opens as you cross the line here. And we watch up to the sector line and see what Edvir can do. Will they be able to compete? It's almost, well, it's just over a 10th down from their previous best, so they'll have to find a lot of time in this part of the circuit to try and have a go at Frantic. I think Frantic's done enough. I think Frantic might be on pole position. Edvir into the final few corners to give it a shot. Riding over that curb, that's not going to help them at all, but they'll complete the lap regardless. Edvir in the McLaren across the line, and it's going to be a 2.5 tenth improvement in the final sector. They've managed to find an absolutely massive amount of lap time. 3.5 tenths overall. Incredible stuff from Edvir. I don't know how they just did that, but they've just pipped Frantic. And they're actually on pole position. They completely tricked us all. I didn't expect to see anything like that after a few mistakes. But Edvir has got the job done. That's absolutely incredible. The Dutch battle down under is solved, and Edvir will start on pole position with Frantic on the inside line. It's all about the launch. Will Edvir be able to hold it and take the racing line? Well, will they get a wheel spin? Will they start on the medium or the hard tyre? That's the question. Edvir on pole position for the Australian Grand Prix. Frantic in P2 and Terence in P3. The race director's on your screen now, and we'll be back for the race. We'll see you in a bit. Ready, hold, Go! Who's going to get it into turn one? The inside line for the Alpine, the McLaren on pole position. But no, Frantic's got there. Frantic will be challenging. Oh, there's contact. Edfie's round. I do not believe it. There's more contact further behind. And Book is into the back of these cars. It's Livesey into P1. Jericho Willis, Sulkin, Verf. All the higher tier drivers go through. Terrence has been affected as they try to take avoiding action. And it's the two pole sitter rivals now down the order. I do not believe what I've just seen. Oh, and Sulkin's into the wall on the exit of 5, and that is going to mean that they are slow, very slow. Oh, and Edfie's had another issue as they were just maybe not realizing what was going on with Sulkin having damage. The pole sitter is at the back of the pack in less than half a lap. I don't know what to say. Absolutely tragic. We've got Livesey holding P1 right now with Jericho Willis and Verf having a dream start. Terrence is the lead car for the EU drivers. Sulkin, Frantic, and then Book. Frantic with damage. It's Book with damage, and it is Edfie with a 8-second gap to the next car. So that's a similar trade-off for everyone right now. Livesey on the hard tyre and looking to try and hold on to that. That's Frantic, Sulkin and Book all into the pit lane as we expect them to see. How will that change things later on? We don't know. It's the medium tyre for Jericho Willis. It's the medium for Edfie, but it's Edfie actually retiring in the pit lane and they give up on that one, which is a shame because it's lap 2 out of 29, but that's the way it's gone. And that's them out. Terrence leads by, well, basically 25 seconds. Frantic has Sulkin for company, but on its essentially the same tyre, there is a 26-second gap at the moment. Terrence not too far away from the next cars ahead, but not exactly in the train, and it's a battle with Jericho Willis. Forces! Oh, Livesey! Livesey into the wall! I do not believe it! They tried to defend, and now they're out! Into the wall from P1 to P4. Sulkin will be catching up as there might be damage on that racing ball. There is big damage on the front end plate. It seems to be a curse to be in P1. Is Jericho Willis going to break that curse? Will they take the fastest lap? It's Verf will chase them down. Jericho Willis had a tough time yesterday with some track limit bugs. But so far, they've been okay regarding damage and haven't had too many issues. Looking alright for now. And there is the switch, as we now see, Jericho Willis relinquish the position to Verf, who has the double DRS, and that's going to help them even more so. Now, Sulkin and Frantic try and catch up to Terrence, but Terrence, again, has a 24-second lead. We see Edfie, the championship contender, out, guaranteed to score 0 points, and Frantic looking to try and score, well, 16 points at least over their rival. And it would be 14 as a minimum, as we currently sit with just 3 current tier drivers on the grid. We can still have a great race with the other cars around us. Frantic just losing DRS range to Sulkin. Watch that rear wing. And unfortunately it is done, but we do get to see this battle up in front with a fastest lap from Sulkin in the meantime, 1 lap fresher tyres, and that hard tyre is already very quick. There's our first 3-second time penalty of the evening. Welcome to Australia, they say. Welcome to track limits. It's a circuit that's difficult enough with track limits regardless, let alone any bugs. But PP's got Live C catching up to them slowly. On debut, looking to try and just have a good race here, a smooth race if they can. That race start was obviously very, very tricky from many drivers. Contact into the first corner caused them to go around. Now, Live seat, looking at DRS, hoping for slightly more straightforward overtake in a straight line with some ERS to use as well. The Williams on the left hand side, the Racing Bull chooses the right, and they make it the long way around, but still quite simple with the speed advantage you get from that rear wing opening. And there is the Hungarian holding on. Talking about Hungarians, Verf and Jericho Willis continue their battle in F1.5, both as higher tier drivers, both in the lead of the Grand Prix after an incredible start considering the circumstances of everybody else. They were very pleased with the situation. And I'll quickly update you on the race so far. We've got the higher tier drivers of Verf and Jericho Willis leading the way after starting at the back of the pack. We've got Live C and Sulkin. They are now higher tier drivers as well. They tried to have a go at pushing. Live C was leading the Grand Prix for a lap or so until making a mistake and going into the wall. That's why they're a bit further back now. Frantic and Edvir had a collision at the beginning of the race, giving Frantic damage. Edvir spun around. Edvir then spun again, unfortunately, and then has retired in the pit lane. And we see Terence in P3, no damage, not needing to pit again, and they're now 21 seconds in front of Sulkin, and that is 23ish seconds ahead of the next current tier driver of Frantic. Terence looking for their third career victory in LSI here today. Once around Belgium for their first victory, once around Monza, Italy, and now they're looking once again just a season later in Australia. It's Verf finding the pace ahead of this medium tyre now. The switch is already here. It was looking good for Jericho Willis for a while, but now no ERS and no grip is going to be so tricky. We saw yesterday how difficult it was with the medium tyre in the in the late phase of the first stint, and a few drivers were saved by, or a driver, this man, was saved by the safety car, but a few drivers did have a few issues with the tyre towards the end of the stint. It was a very, very slippery compound. So far, Jericho Willis hasn't shown the weakness of the tyre other than a little bit of a drop of pace, but we'll see if that goes to anything more. 1.3 seconds is the gap. That's the closest gap on track right now. But we also see Frantic and Sulkin slowly make progress on Terence right now as well. Terence driving their own race. And unlike last weekend, they don't have anybody to fight in this stage of the Grand Prix. It might change a little bit later on, but they still need to focus. And you could say, well, you've got no one to fight, no one around you. This is going to be the easiest it gets to be in a race, to be leading. But it's really not, because you can really find it quite easy to lose concentration when you're on your own. And then it's game over, and you make a mistake, and you've lost everything. Terence has to make sure that this is the moment where they really focus. If you're in a battle with other cars, if you're in a train, then you have a chance to sit behind another car and follow them and think about other things. Now you've got nothing else to think about, but you do have mistakes that you can actively think about a bit more. So there is a mind game to this for Terence, and they can't afford to let it go. If they do, then they'll be in trouble. The yellow, and that's Book retiring in the pit lane, unfortunately. Now it's just Frantic and Terence as current tier drivers. Terence of 28 points in the championship relative to Frantic's 40. So currently only a 4-point difference. Frantic will maintain the championship lead. Terence will jump ahead of Edvir and Sulkin. Obviously Sulkin is a current higher tier driver, however, now. So Terence looking to go to P2 in the championship. Jericho Willis has made their pit stop. And now they have Sulkin not too far away, but fresher tyres is going to be a big benefit for them. This is your championship leader a little bit further behind. Currently everybody's spread out on track. Burp and Jericho Willis earlier on fighting, but the strategy has split them up. Terence driving on their own right now, staying out of trouble in the early laps has helped them out, and now they are leading by a big gap. Jericho Willis has made that pit stop as we just mentioned. It's Sulkin in P4, they had an issue. Unfortunately, colliding with the wall on the exit of turn 5 and having to go into the pit lane. They're trying to recover once again. A great start to the Grand Prix for them yesterday shows that they do have pace, but can they show it in the rest of this Grand Prix with Verf and Jericho Willis having such a clean getaway. Frantic had that issue in the first corner as they travel through the same corner now, and in Live C and P6 getting through some traffic too. Getting into P1 for the early stage and having that issue as they were fighting with another car, just missing their braking point unfortunately, but a lot to learn I'm sure from that moment, and they won't be making that mistake again. Here's your race leader. And there's our second time penalty, our only time penalty runner on the grid at the moment, lap 12 out of 29. Now started for Terence, who is second place. We've got Jericho Willis, who hasn't made a pit stop, so is looking to try and undercut here on Verf and definitely get that position back from Terence. The leader, 18 seconds away from the American driver. It's Jericho Willis, who is hoping that this strategy will help them out. The undercut will give them track position, but with 4 DRS zones, the most in a Formula 1 circuit, it's going to be quite possible for Verf to make a move on better tyres anyway. That being said, that better tyre is going to be the medium, and we saw the switchover point happen on 6 laps into the tyre stint for Jericho Willis. So if Verf goes over 6 laps on a medium tyre, they'll find a bit of trouble with the grip, as we would assume. Continuing to take chunks out of the other cars around them. Terence loses a bit more time to Verf relative to Frantic, though. We've only lost a couple of seconds in the last 12 or so laps. So not particularly pushing to maintain the gap that they have, but using what they have to not take any risks, and that's the best way to think about it right now. Manage the time loss rather than trying to maintain the gap that you have. Sure, if you can maintain a gap, it means that the car behind that you're racing is going to be pushing a little bit harder. But as long as you don't let it get too close and you don't get a time penalty or make a mistake, you can afford to lose time to a car behind gradually over the course of the Grand Prix. If you push and make a mistake, get a time penalty, and then a safety car comes out, that gap that you have behind means nothing, and now you've got a time penalty where the other car can gain everything. So Terence has really got to try and stay clean off of every curb they can and make sure that they just drive smoothly and don't concern themselves with Frantic in P5 at the moment. The Lion does not concern himself with Frantic. Lap 15 out of 29. We're about halfway into this Grand Prix now. And we'll give you an update. It's Verf on 14 lap-old hard tyres. It's Terence in P2, but P1 for the EU drivers. It's Jericho Willis, who made their pit stop a few laps ago and is looking for a hell of an undercut. We'll double check that time right now. The gap to the leader is 15 seconds. A huge difference. But is that going to be enough? Because Verf's tyres are going to be absolutely rapid. That being said, the switch will change around, or at least even out. And Jericho Willis and Verf, with tyre difference, will be effectively on the same grippiness of tyre. It just depends on who can deal with the temperature management the best towards the end of the Grand Prix. And is Verf giving it their all, pushing to the limit as these tyres do start to lose everything that they have, but they continue to go further and further as they are expected to for the moment. I reckon we're going to get them to around a lap 18, 19, maybe even 20. And that's when we'll see Verf come in to try and make use of that initial phase of the tyre. See if they can get the DRS and then have a go. And we'll have a bit of a classic race really. We see Verf, Terence, Frantic, Jericho, Willis all on the same grid once again. Sulkin and Livesey, new additions. But currently you see the top four all F1.5 drivers from a few seasons ago fighting for the championship. With Sir Maxon on the grid, who then went to take on their F1 title last season with a great memorable victory around this very circuit, going from the front of the grid all the way to P last in the opening laps and then taking victory by the end of it. And there's Livesey leaving the pit lane as Sulkin's done so too, and they look for an undercut on Frantic. That being said, Livesey would have to drive an absolute masterclass in order to undercut Frantic from the gap that they have. They would also have to probably cut a few corners to do the same thing. But Sulkin is definitely looking to try and do this. I think they were ahead anyway, so an undercut would only get them further into P1. Jericho Willis now closing in on Terence on the very different tyre. Is Terence going to end up fighting with Jericho? Well, I think Jericho's going to catch regardless in the next few corners. That's where it's going to be a massive advantage to the Aston Martin, and DRS will be available, so Jericho's probably going to try and clear the Red Bull as soon as they can. But the question is, will Terence go into the pit lane at the end of this lap? There you go, there's the move early on using battery with the big old toe that they've got, and you can see the time that they gain, and they'll continue to gain with the double DRS, and the grip that Terence doesn't have will help that run from Jericho Willis to make that gap even bigger. And on the traction, you'll just watch Jericho Willis break away. Absolutely incredible stuff. It might be time. Terence is going to take the opportunity to go into the pit lane. They've got such a big gap behind, 18 seconds to Frantic. They might as well. And we know that Terence likes to give himself a good old challenge with saving tyres. So I'm sure a medium tyre isn't going to be too much of a threat to them. They leave the pit lane as Frantic actually goes into the pit lane as well. I thought that might have been a bit of a different call. Maybe they tried to stay ahead of Terence and slow them down or something. But they don't go for a dirty tactic, and they will just do a standard pit stop. Livesey is just behind. They would have maybe seen a pixel of Frantic up in the distance, but focusing on their own race, they probably didn't realise that the Alpine was just in the first corner. But it's definitely going to be a little bit of motivation to see the car is just further up ahead. And regardless of whether it's motivation or not, Livesey is in this race. Livesey is gaining experience on track, and that's got to be a benefit. It's the race leader into the pits. It's going to be the battle with Jericho Willis reignited in a few laps time. Looking at that undercut, miles ahead of Terence, but miles behind Jericho Willis, and that undercut is even bigger than I thought it would be. Sure, Jericho Willis has got another 11 laps to go, so they're going to be on 20 lap old tyres. But Verf's tyres, they're going to be tough to manage as well. Can Jericho Willis really do 20 laps on a hard tyre, or are they going to try and do a two-stop? That's the question. It could be a very valid strategy, Jericho Willis looking at a two-stop strategy. In that case, would they try and go now? Well, I don't know, because then you're just on an equal tyre relative to your rival, and you're going to be a pit stop behind. So it wouldn't make sense for Jericho to pit, especially right now. Would they try and go for softs at the very final stages of the race? Again, I don't think it would make sense. Terence, P3, they've got Sulkin slowly but surely gaining on them. Terence can't find a way at the moment to lose this Grand Prix because Frantic is too far behind. That is very close to track limits for Verf. That is a big old twitch from the car balance there that they struggled with. Hopefully they don't see any more issues like that. We've got Terence also finding that in the first corner. Very tricky to deal with. P3 for the Red Bull car. Sulkin 5.8 seconds. They continue to take chunks out of the ball, but can they get ahead? Can they get ahead and then extend the time penalty range? Well, I don't know. That's going to be tough. 3 seconds on top of the current 5.5. It's a challenge that I'm sure they're going to accept. Would they be able to take P3 overall? Will Terence be able to take P3 overall instead? That's a battle that we're willing to watch. It's a battle between P1 and 2 and P3 and 4. It's going to be a slow burner, but it's going to happen at some point, and we'll get to see the answers to our questions. Lap 21 out of 29, and Verf goes for a fastest lap as they continue to put the pressure on to Jericho Willis, the American taking victory in F1.5 just a few races ago to begin this season in Zandvoort. Showing some strong performances throughout the season. Having some misfortune in Singapore and yesterday in Australia, but still not being ignored for the efforts that they're doing, and I'm pretty certain still leading the team's championship. Although Zingy did take a second win of the season yesterday, so could be looking at regaining that with Racing Bulls. Into turn 11 they go. Tentative on the brakes to manage these tyres. They know that they've got a long way to go. They're sending it a lot harder, carrying the momentum through the corner. Not worrying about the grip so much because they know that they can go to the end of the Grand Prix. That's the benefit that Verf has. The disadvantage is that by the time they do catch up to Jericho Willis, it might be either too late or all over with the tyre difference, because they could potentially even out. Again, I'll say 20 lap old hard tyres in F1.25 is going to be a stretch and a half. Terence now 5 seconds ahead of Sulkin, who does what they can to catch up, but not catching up at all for the time being. That's very much an afterthought at this stage. Terence on the faster tyre for the next couple of laps. That will switch in a few moments, as the driver from Hong Kong is looking to try and take their third LSI career victory. Not exactly the fairy tale epic battle that they would have hoped for, but a win is a win. Staying out of trouble is part of the game. Staying out of trouble is part of a championship, and they've done that so far today. They deserve to be in the position they are in. Jericho Willis, though, they've got a few questions to answer. Will they be able to keep Verf behind? Verf really pushing it on the brakes there. As you can see them locking the rears to get the rotation in that car. And can I just say, these two have come a very long way in progression. Massively improving their pace. And being some great rivals. Following each other through the ranks. Fighting for victories and podiums in all tiers. And almost fighting for DRS is Verf on lap 23 out of 29. The time is now. The chance is upon us. 1.3 seconds. It's the next lap or next half a lap. We will see Verf have an opportunity to catch up to Jericho Willis. Battery is available as well for the green car. Well, the light green car. So they know that they can push a little bit more. And when they do get that DRS, they can attempt an overtake. Green versus green. Very much even with DRS. It's a slight advantage to the Sauber. And they open the rear wing. 9/10 at the moment. And they'll bring that gap down as Jericho Willis trying to run away on the straight. A little bit too late to do that kind of thing, because there will be a second dose of DRS for the Sauber car. And they will catch up. It's half a second. All battery usage is now invalid. And Jericho's got to hope that they save some battery to be able to hold off their old rival. Looked like Jericho was pointing into the pit lane. It looks like Verf is looking for the move early on the start-finish straight, going for the overtake. You don't see that too often. And on lap 25 out of 29, Verf retakes the lead. It's Jericho Willis making a mistake. 6-lap-old medium tyres, they're not going to be struggling at all. Jericho Willis, 15-lap-old hard tyres. I thought it would be a little bit more close, but it's actually a really tough situation for Jericho Willis regarding the tyre situation, and I don't think they're really able to keep it on track as well as I thought they might. Verf already putting the foot down, and the DRS train is not going to be a thing. I thought we were going to see both of these guys follow each other to the end of the Grand Prix, with maybe Verf having a slight advantage, but doesn't seem to be so much the case. Maybe that medium tyre will get slower and slower, but with the hard tyre already looking like a problem, I don't see much being done with that. Just can I say though, 17 seconds advantage these guys have built over Terence behind. Jericho Willis could go for an extra pit stop just for the sake of it, just to be safe and not have a puncture. Would they do that? No, they will not. Terence 17 seconds ahead of this man who splits frantic, and Terence the only current tier drivers on the grid. Live seeing P6 getting some laps in, just trying to gain that experience. In a multiplayer session, the cars are slightly different to Grand Prix and time trial. You might as well get those laps in whilst you can, regardless of your race. Anything is something when it comes to experience, and that will help you a lot later on down the line into a championship battle. Whether you race on your own or you race with other people, there's always something to learn. Sulkin trying to eke that gap out of Terence, which is a 17-second gap. Jericho Willis losing time to the Racing Bull, sorry, to the Red Bull, as that hard tyre is really a lot slower than we thought it would be. Would we even see Jericho Willis encounter a puncture? It's definitely not out of the realms of possibility at this stage of the Grand Prix. 17 laps, I said it was going to be 20 lap old tyres by the end. They should make 20 laps. They shouldn't get a puncture unless Jericho's had some really big wheel spin moments earlier on in the Grand Prix. We should be okay. They're going to be difficult. They're going to be very tight, and it's going to be tough to keep it in a straight line. Terence gaining. A 16-second gap, however, is going to be absolutely massive. 11 seconds, making that 12. 15.5 seconds. Frantic and Terence. They've had a valiant effort to take chunks out of Terence's gap from the beginning of this race. But you can only do so much. Livesey goes for a fastest lap attempt, because why not? No extra point for it in the 25 game. But you do get some pride from it. But this man is going to feel the most pride as they look to try and take victory. Verf starts the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. It's Jericho Willis, the second closest car on track to another car, because it's Sulkin who's now in that position. As Terence is just up ahead. This is Frantic, wrong car. There you can see Terence just up ahead in P1, but 1 lap to catch that gap, and then plus a 3 seconds. It's going to be as it is. And the driver that stood on the podium in P3 yesterday will not be able to get the podium here today and repeat it. But again, all these drivers to stay on the grid and do what they've done so far today, massive respect, because it's not easy. When there's not much going on, the concentration is brutal, and you can easily make a mistake. But they've not given up, and they've given us a good old race to watch. And we thank them for that, as Verf is about to lead us onto the final lap of the Grand Prix, as they look to try and to secure another F1.5 EU Championship victory, this time as a higher tier driver. Jericho Willis took one in Zandvoort. It's now Verf's time to shine. Verf took victory in Austria, Singapore. It was Sulkin. And now Verf rounds the final corners to secure their victory for the second time this F1.5 season. Verf wins in Australia. A phenomenal drive indeed. It was a tough one, it was a long one, but they deserve it. Jericho Willis gave us a great battle for the most part, but just didn't quite have it on the strategy. But they make it to 20 laps on a hard tyre. It's Terence though, ready to make it 3 victories in their career. They round the final corner. It's Terence on top. Terence crosses the line and wins in Australia. What a drive. It's been a long one, but they didn't give up. They didn't get distracted. They stayed focused and they completed the job. It's Sulkin in P4. It's Frantic who scores points and maintains their championship lead in P5 for the overall race. P2 for the EU drivers, and Livesey goes for a fastest lap at the very end there to show what they can do. and they gave it a good old attempt today. Unfortunate moment in the race, but again, I'm sure they're never going to do that again. What a race. Verve takes victory, but it's Terence who is the one to watch. I have never seen that celebration before. Incredible. Verve's in a good mood, I'll tell you that. In a very good mood. Jericho Willis in P2 and Terence in P3. Then we've got Sulkin, Frantic, Live C and DNFing was Book PP and Ed Veer at the beginning of this race. We get the results at Sported. We go through the race director just in case. And then we will be back for the post-race interviews. We'll see you in a bit. Hello everyone and welcome to the post-race interviews of the Australian Grand Prix. That was a pretty difficult one. It was an endurance race, that's for sure. We start with Live C. Live C, well, what a start for you. It was absolutely incredible, but unfortunately a little bit of an incident later on meant it was a bit more tricky, but I'm sure you gained some good experience in that race.
Yeah, I have to learn turn 13, so I lost I lost 7 position less yesterday. Today like 5. So yeah, it was amazing. If I learned turn 13, I think yesterday I will do second place and today in the top 3 for sure. But I didn't learn it, so GG's. The start was amazing, so I start in last one. I don't know who was in 7th place, but I was a little bit faster, and after turn 1 I was P1. I don't know what happened, so I left until I actually left. So at until turn 13, and then I cried for the next 28 laps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always one big mistake and the rest is fine. So again, always something happens, just like me.
Well, if it's only one thing, then at least you know there's one thing to fix, and you'll be able to encounter that for the next one. Silverstone is a great circuit, and I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine there. There's not a big old wall on the exit of a corner as well for you to get tangled into, so you'll be absolutely fine. Thank you very much, Livesy. Really good effort
I think I'm gonna recreate 2021 Verstappen Hamilton over there. So yeah.
I really hope not.
Yeah, it was a great race. Good job, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Livesy. We'll see you next time. And we move on to Frantic. Well, that was an eventful first corner. Later on, it was a little bit more tricky, of course, to gain back, but you still scored 16 points for the EU drivers over P2 in the championship. Can you take us through it and explain what happened in the opening stages?
Yep, well, that was epic. Well, I always try to stay in position when I notice my starter's average, but I had a super launch. So I think it's weird for me to not go side by side with Edveer in turn 1. Honestly, I need to look back at the footage before I say something. So I'm going to be very neutral. But from what I can remember, I think I was a tiny bit ahead in turn 1. From what I can remember. But he was... Well, he had the outside and he took full advantage of that. Like, full! I'm telling you, full advantage. But, I mean, I have to look back at the footage, but I think he cut me off. That's all I'm gonna say.
Fair enough. Well, we will for sure, but yeah. Well said. Thank you very much for that, and thank you very much for staying in the race as well and scoring those good points. I'm sure you're happy with the championship position staying as it is. But yeah,
yes.
Silverstone, I'm sure you can have a great one there. A sprint race as well to give it a second chance if you don't make it through the first corner in the first try. Thank you very much, Frantic, and we'll see you next time. Well done today.
Appreciate you.
And we move on to Sulkin. Sulkin, what happened there? That was turn 5 that just decided to bite your wing off.
Turn 5?
I think it was turn... Is it turn 5 or turn 6? You on the exit, all of a sudden, the wall is pretty close there.
Oh no, I didn't hit the wall. I got... the start was really good for me. I made to jump Terrence and the guy in P4. And then I managed to be beside by Terrence in the first corner. And I make sure to give him all the space because I know he's a LSI F1.5 driver. So as a reserve driver, I think it's my part to let him have the space and let him race with the other guys. So I tried to left the space, and all of a sudden I see a little Aston Martin right in my wing, and yeah, I got very bad damage on my right front side of the wings, and then I had no grip. So yeah, probably what you saw in turn 5, I made a crash, and yeah, my whole wing was yellow, so I had to pit. But I think I made the best of what I could with what happened. So I'm happy to stay P4 with the wing damage and yeah, such. So.
Yeah, I think that's well said, definitely, considering the situation. But also, you won the race last weekend, so you can't win them all.
Yeah.
Did you learn a lot from that race going to take into the next one?
Well, maybe to be more conservative on the start. Maybe not. Maybe look more behind me and see where Terrence, not Terrence, but Jericho is next time. And no, I don't think I really learned something. This race was just like time trial. Just try to be consistent. I think I had some fastest laps. I had at least 2, but then who was it? The V car.
Yeah.
Who got the final lap. So yeah, it was quick, but yeah, felt consistent and was doing 1.9 to 1.20s all throughout the race. So
any practice is good practice, and consistency race practice is vital. So I'm sure you'll be able to take something into the next one. Thank you very much, Solkin. Really good effort today, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
And we move to Terrence. Terrence, that's a 3rd career victory for you there. It was an interesting circumstance, but half of the job is staying out of trouble, and you got the job done today. Really, congratulations. Can you take us through it?
Thank you, Aaron. I mean, I didn't expect it because Frantic and Ever is he called Ever? Yeah, Ever. That McLaren was faster than me last circuit, so I wasn't expect much here. And to be honest, when I crashed in the qualify, so I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm done, because every time I want to slam on my throttle earlier, it spun. So it's not it's a good setup, but it could be better. There's still some room of improvement there, but because of buffer me, I can't really change much there. So I just try to give my best. And on the race start, I got a very shit start. Slow reaction time, slow. I got a wheel spin as well when I pick up the throttle. So suddenly Falcon go to my left, and I think one Aston Martin go to my right. So I was going to have was going to be sandwiched. So I try to brake as early as I can to avoid the sandwich. And yeah, pretty good job on avoiding the incidents ahead. But I dropped to P5, I think, after turn 2. But because maybe Soken got the wing damage from the Aston Martin, so he let me through on turn 3. So thanks for Soken. And when I know that Jericho is a higher tier driver, and also same as Third, so I just try to nurse my tire, and when I need to push, I push. Same as I think the latest stint. Actually, on schedule, I would pit at the end of lap 16, but at that time, I don't think Frantic would come in, and if I pit on earlier, I would met Frantic as a traffic. I know he needs to pit once more, but I don't want to have any risk. So I pit as late as I can. So yeah, and successfully I don't met any traffic. And when Soken on his kind of older hard tire, the second hard tire stint, but he's still faster because his raw pace is faster than me.
Yeah.
So I think only the first 3 laps I try to manage my tire well with on my mediums, but after that 3 laps I push all the way until the end, and luckily that he only gets the RS on or didn't get any on the last lap, and I mean that's my all I can give.
Yeah.
And I didn't get any tread limit warning as well, so I'm pretty satisfied, but quite a lonely race as well because I don't want to met traffic, so I won't, and also I can't really touch Jericho and Firth as well, but stable race.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
For sure. I mean, it's frustrating that it was a boring boring race regarding
Not boring.
track
Not really boring
action.
because track action, but lack of traction. But every corner, especially for the medium speed corner, I need to. Every time I try to turn in is understeer, and on the mid corner I feel oversteer, and on the exit I feel understeer again. It's like a 2014 Ferrari, but
Yeah, I mean, the
not crash with it then.
the anticipation was a lot, and I think you've managed it very well. So congratulations. It's not easy to take the lead of a Grand Prix and then maintain focus. It's very easy to be complacent and then lose it all. So well done. Third career victory. Congratulations. Massive points, and we'll see you next time. Well done, Terence.
Thank you.
And that's been it for the post-race interviews. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure. Join us for next weekend, the sprint race of the season, the first sprint race out of 2, the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. That's going to be absolutely awesome. I can't wait. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.